Welcome to the Made for Money podcast, where feminine wisdom meets financial power. I'm your host, Christine Walsh, financial strategist for women entrepreneurs, fractional CFO, speaker, and author of the best-selling book, Be the Queen of Your Money, and guide for women who are rewriting their money stories and unapologetically rising into their wealth. Let's do this. All right. It's Christine, and welcome back to Made for Money. We are wrapping up season 1. And so before we go any further, before we go to the next teaching, before we go to the next concept, and I want to pull you guys all into this more strategic around money as we move forward now that the philosophy is done. But before we move into those next conversations, I really want to take a moment to pause in this episode and name what shifted. And whether you've listened to episode 1 or you're just finding this podcast now, this episode is here to help you name and sense into what's changed and decide where you want to go next. And if you're new here, this is so cool because this episode will give you that felt sense of what this space is really about, what this podcast is really about. And if you've been listening, thank you. This is your moment to take it all in, to take in where we've gone and where we're going, and perhaps realize that some of the concepts that Christine's been talking about have shown me or had a felt sense around me that I'm not in the same place, or I've had a different awareness around money that I haven't had. I'm really excited to just share and summarize where we have been. Season 1 of Made for Money was, in my mind, when I thought about the arc of the whole trajectory of this work right now, was never about quick tips. It was never about hacks. It will probably never be a lot about that, or do this and make more, or 60 minutes to $6 million. It's really about something deeper and something more core. We stepped into capacity. We talked about safety. We talked about honesty. As I will share with all of my clients, some of the biggest pieces of working with money are about those things. It's not what we do around money. It's who we are around money. It's who we be. And it's actually how money lives in our body, and our body being a representation and a manifestation around what happens at the bank account. And what I've learned from so many of you, messages, conversations, reflections that people have shared with me is this: like, maybe nothing's really magically changed overnight, but I have heard something that I haven't heard before, and that's a change in my world on how I look at money. And that's what I want to name today. So I'm super excited and celebrating episode 14, one of my favorite numbers because I was born on the 14th, because that change is super easy to overlook. And so I want to celebrate also you listening in and looking at money differently, opening another way. And we don't want to rush past that. The first shift has often been, for many, many people, around fixing money. The shift is from like fixing myself or fixing money, like looking outward, to being in relationship with money. So before the season, many of us, including myself, related to money like it's a problem to solve, like it's something to fix, it's something to control, it's something to outsmart, it's something to get right. And what has shifted over these episodes, and what I've been sharing and invite you to see as well, is that money's not the enemy or as a test, but it actually is a relationship. It's a mirror, it's a conversation, it's something you are in communication with instead of adversarial fighting with, for lack of a better phrase. And that alone can change a lot. Because when money starts to become relational instead of transactional or even adversarial, we stop trying to dominate it or over dominate it because we think it has the power, and we start learning how to steward it. that's shift number one, moving from the idea of fixing money, external, to actually how am I in relationship with that money. And then shift number two, again, from the episodes from 1 to 13 that I've recorded already, is this idea from going from urgency to capacity. So another quiet but powerful shift, which I think is the most cool kind, is this loosening of urgency. Definitely not because the world got easier or it slowed down, although, that COVID time was definitely a slowing down, or that the cash flow, instantly became predictable. But perhaps because you started to sense something true, like pushing harder actually isn't what creates wealth. Our ability to hold and be in relationship with money does. This is where your nervous system comes into play. This is where breath work comes into play. This is where our ability to stay present with money really matters. And I asked a lot of questions of you over the course of these first episodes in this first season that then, we ask in typical money conversations, like, is it safe for you to hold more money? Not intellectually or on like cognitively or morally, but in your body. And when that question comes to you and lands, have a think about it, right? In the spirit of honesty and the spirit of humility. Is it safe for me to hold more? And when that happens, you'll notice urgency goes to the wayside and capacity increases. Urgency starts to soften, capacity starts to radiate. All right, shift number 3. So much about money, and this is such a great shift worth naming. So much about money is, and our glitches around it are about shame and it being secret, which traditionally in the past has, it's not something we talk about, kind of thing. But it's also, I think what's interesting is we don't normally talk about it out in the world. And we're not really talking about it within ourselves. So this really invites us this idea shift from shame and secrecy to our own self-honesty. We don't still need to not be telling the world everything unless we want to about our money situation, or as I often say, sharing with a trusted person in your world. But the ability for us to tell ourselves the truth about where we are more often, whether that's looking at the numbers in your bank account, looking at the numbers on your financial statements or your retirement, whatever it is, the debt, the net worth, all of that, feeling the emotions that perhaps you might bypass, and naming any patterns that you're seeing around how you work with money without collapsing into shame. Like, I'm not good with money, or I'm not good with numbers. Our ability to be self-honest is a form of immense power. And I've heard that many of you have crossed what I would call the threshold this season when you think about moving from shame and secrecy to self-honesty. So I'm just really celebrating that in all of you. And then shift 4, moving from this idea from strategy first to body first. It's one of the key core principles that I bring, because if the body's not on board, no strategy is going to work, right? It's like applying the diet without understanding our relationship to food. It'll work for a little bit, but it'll blow up. And we need to know our own internal alignment system inside out before we can choose the strategy, because it's the only way it's going to work. And a lot of money education, financial education, starts in the head, right? Strategy, logic. And what I intentionally wanted to do with this podcast, and will continue to do, but more importantly, this first piece of it, these first episodes, was to intentionally not talk about money education. If you want to go back, and I'll give you resources in the show notes of where to go back to if you want to learn about how we use breath, how we use our sensations, how we learn about safety and grief and letting go. Because here's the truth: you don't receive money with your mindset, you receive it with your whole body, your whole nervous system, your energy. And strategy, of course, still matters. I do love it so much, and we will get there. But strategy without the embodiment creates collapse, burnout. You know it all. I know it all. Boom and bust cycles in your financial situation. And I think my invitation in bringing this piece in was that you literally like know it in your bones that you have the ability to create money. And that's an inside out game. All right. And then shift number 5, from holding on, right? So much about what I pulled through in the first season here is from holding on to learning to let go. Want to hold on so bad. The hardest shift of all is letting go of our identity, or of our past identity around money, knowing there's another identity we want to move to, letting go of business models that don't work, letting go of money patterns, letting go of who you think you are with money. So it was really important for me to pull in this idea around grief, not as from a place of pity, but as wisdom. Because as you're stepping into a new financial level, something has to be released. It has to. It's just a law of physics. And what I'm envisioning is that many of you are standing on that, like right there between those like that simple line I talked about, actually jumping from one vine to another in the last episode on grief 13. That's not a place to sort of feel like you're going backwards. It's actually your transition space, and it's actually your most potent place right now. So if you feel that you are stuck because something is letting go around your financial situation, whether that's literally out of you're seeing your bank account go down, or you're letting go of a way of business that has supported you for so long and you don't see what the next path is, that's transition, and that's normal. And being in a place of awareness around that is so important. So let me ask you, as you have moved through some of these episodes perhaps, or you're listening for the first time, what is possible when we approach money from embodied place, improved, and like what's still hard, like what feels different in your body when you think about money now? Perhaps maybe it's a little bit more honesty, maybe it's a little less panic, maybe it's a little bit more choice. And what's also feels stretchy still. It all counts, it all matters. And again, it was really important for me to pull these episodes through these first season, because it's the foundation that I'll build everything else on. So like I said, before we go any further on this journey into cash flow, a strategy, making more money, expansion, I wanted to name this moment today, because integration is leadership. Financial integration is financial leadership. And if you're new here and something in this episode spoke to you, there are episodes earlier in their season waiting for you with a whole lot of love. And if you've been here all along, thank you for doing this work with honesty and courage. It is noted. I see you, I feel you. And next, we build from what's changed. Until then, though, remember, you are not here to chase money. Money does not have power over you, because you are made for money. And so if you want to go deeper, if some of the shifts in this episode resonated, you can explore one of these episodes from earlier in the season. And there's no right order. Follow what speaks to you. There's episodes on nervous system safety, financial sobriety, and learning what's actually safe for you to hold. There's episodes on breath work. What I just named would be the movement from urgency to capacity. And then if you think about moving from a shift from strategy to embodiment, there's episodes on breath work, the senses, emotional intelligence and money, and how money lives in the body, not just up here in the head, which is exhausting if it's all always up there. And then if you want to hear about or feel into it, and again, this is about your resonation to what's pulling you through or calling to you, is from holding on to letting go. And episodes on identity, episodes on grief and attachment, and the losses we honor to step into our new financial level. And you'll all find those referenced in the show notes below. So excited. And to wind this down, a reflection to sit with. What feels different in your body when you think about money this way? Even if nothing's changed yet, body first, money second. It's foundational, these type of shifts. Thank you for being here. If this episode resonated for you, I'd love you to follow the podcast so you don't miss what's next. I'm very excited for what's next. I'll share this with a woman who is ready to do money differently, or I'll leave a review. They do truly help this work reach the women who need to see it. And as always, thank you for being here, and big, big love. Until we speak again. Bye for now.